Hello, Maverick traders. Welcome out to your currency recap for December 9th. Corey here with you. We're going to take a look at meaningful news in the markets. We're going to look at some rotations currently happening and certainly some risk off that started to develop. We'll touch on that and we'll always highlight our very best ideas.
Disclaimer. This video was created for professional Forex and crypto traders. Maverick Currencies is a proprietary trading firm that employs professional traders around the world. Our traders trade firm capital and keep 70 to 80% of profits they generate. All trades and analysis in this video are for professional traders only. If you are interested in becoming a professional Forex and currency trader for Maverick, click the apply button in the video description. Let's break down what happened today.
All right, so let's take a look at markets and specifically the news. I think the news of the day is that equities had the exhaustion high we had kind of touched on. We'll reiterate that. And also the hardest hit were the strongest momentum plays. So Nvidia, Palantir, the crypto trade, all of that was really hit hard, and it followed a gap up in most cases. So when you kind of start strong and finish weak, it's a little telling. Markets are going to be watching CPI coming out on Wednesday because that's the last real big announcement before the Fed meeting next week. Now, if we look at markets, you had Aussie and Kiwi strong, you had Japanese yen weak. Well, that would tell you it's just risk on. It's just play, risk taking. And I don't think that's truly what's happening. Now, those specific currencies, there can be a little bit more momentum. Certainly, Aussie and Kiwi have strengthened from what was a weaker spot, but they're not runaway bull markets. In fact, the strongest area is maybe the British pound from a chart perspective. So we'll look at a few of those charts, make sense of it together. Crypto coming off. If there's anything that is the momentum trade, it's crypto. And that's why I say I'm not so sure that we can fully embrace a risk on like currencies might have suggested today. I think that was just reversals happening. Crypto down, SPX down, a little bit more of the defensive commodities up. That's not really the typical recipe for taking a lot of risk. And I think there will be a little more selling to come in the crypto space. Certainly Litecoin, high flyer in the crypto space, down 17%. That's highly significant. So as we look at equities, you'd have to say, well, the equity market's still up. It's still in an uptrend. True, but we touched on this last week, that watching for a sign of exhaustion, such as this day where we gapped up and finished strong, that's what we would call an exhaustive day. Now, usually you just kind of look at that as, hey, bet on more momentum. So I did the market roundups on Mondays, and the reason I said I didn't really anticipate more big follow through and upside when we got a little sign of exhaustion was because what's the driver for just ramming the markets higher, and do we trust that? I think people have big gains in some of their best performers. They're more inclined to want to sell some of those, but they want to do it next year once the calendar's flipped and delayed those taxes. But the idea that they'd want to buy more and more and be super aggressive, I'm not so sure that makes sense. So as I laid out last Monday, I thought when we get a little sign of exhaustion, expect a reversal off of that. Now, I would anticipate a little bit more selling to come. I would also say the same thing. If you sell off for a few days and then you see a big plunge and kind of a big gap down and then some further selling, I'd actually expect that that's a little bit of a turning point and you'd reverse off of that. So I would anticipate through the remainder of the year that when markets blast higher, you want to play it for a little reversal back down, and when they get a little too extended to the downside, you can play it for a reversal back up. This is unlikely to be a runaway trend. As we look at economic reports, as I mentioned earlier, the CPI on Wednesday is going to be watched closely. We've got the Swiss National Bank on Thursday. Oh, I passed up. We've got Aussie tonight, the RBA statement. They're expected to keep rates unchanged, and then some PPI data here in the U.S. As well. You also have the Euro area with their policy statement. So they're expected to cut rates by 25 basis points. You can see a lot of central bank meetings this week. Next week as well, next Wednesday, we've got the Fed meeting. So these are the final central bank meetings before we hit 2025. On the currency side, here's the way I would look at momentum. We usually draw a line here and here and say anything in the +1 to -1 is not really very good momentum, but pound is the strongest from a momentum standpoint. And then on the weaker side, you really have everything crypto along with the Canadian dollar. So those are the areas. And obviously from this, you'd want to go long pound and short CAD. That would be the trade in the currency markets. Well, let's take a look at some of those charts and see what they look like. Here's our velocity. This is a 4-hour time period. You can see the pound is basing sideways, so we have a pattern, but I'm just looking at it purely from a momentum standpoint. You are trending upward in the RSI overall. You're trending upward on the moving average, which it's recently tested here. You're on a little bit of a sell signal. So obviously this is not a +3. This is like a +1 to +2-ish. But what we're waiting for is just a burst. If you get a nice big bullish candle here and this to flip to a buy, it's going to continue to have upward slope. This RSI is going to turn back upward and you're going to be in business and it's going to check all the boxes for an upside trade. So we're not really in a strong momentum, ready to pull the trigger right here, right now, but we're not far off. Now on the flip side of that, CAD could be shorted immediately, in my opinion. This one, you have the downward sloping RSIs, the downward sloping moving average. We're on a sell signal on the SAR. You've got a break out of a recent base. The Canadian dollar looks like a short, right here, right now. So if you want to jump the gun a little bit, you could anticipate that the pound's going to break higher or try to match something up with this. But CAD looks like it should further weaken. In the crypto space, the weakest is clearly Litecoin, breaking down, strong downward pressure on sell signals. This is a -3 from a velocity standpoint. Litecoin is the weakest thing from that standpoint. Now, the only reason you might have a little bit of caution is obviously we would love if it had already cleared this, if there wasn't some old areas back here that could offer new support, right? If you were hitting new lows instead of having some old price action to come into play, that would be ideal, but still certainly on the bearish side. So long pound, short CAD, crypto and equity markets look like they're going to continue to see further selling. Hope you enjoyed today's currency recap. Have a great week, everyone. We'll see you next time.